Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spotlight on CS Ops or Customer Success Operations. I'm here with my partner, Matthew Lynn, over in Austin, Texas. Hey,
I'm going to
Matthew.
do this too. Hey, John.
Today we
It's
have
exciting times.
the
Uh-huh.
awesome pleasure to talk to Dana Soza, who's going to lift the ceiling for us. She's going to raise the roof. Dana is someone that has been a consultant in the space now for the last, I don't know, half a decade or
5 years, yeah.
5 years,
hmm
and was previously leading customer success in a variety of companies, from GE Digital, large enterprise, to some of the earlier stage companies,
hmm
including even Duns and Bradstreet, which is probably a familiar name with a lot of people who have to deal with customer data or account hierarchies. And so, yeah, pleasure to have you on the phone on the call here today, Dana. Welcome.
I am so excited. I'm such a Jean fan. I'm a CS Ops fan. I'm just a fan. And now I met Matthew, and I'm a fan of the bow tie and the bright shirt. I'm excited. I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Well, I missed the memo on the brightness today. I'm in a dull blue
Oh,
compared to the two
I
of you.
know.
So.
Fair enough, John. Fair enough. So Dana, granted, we got to hear a whole bunch of things about you, but let's hear it from you. Tell us something about your journey, what gets you up in the morning, what keeps you up at night for that matter.
Yeah.
Give us just this high level overview of how you came to be in ops and what drives you in this space.
Yeah. So, it was actually a couple of things. One was when Gainsight made CS Ops a thing. I It lit me up inside the moment that they made it a thing, because up until then, customer success had been just about, like, you're a customer success manager. You run through these playbooks, you engage with customers this way. And it's like land, adopt, expand, renew. It's just, you're just doing your day to day. And it's either you are a people manager or you're an individual contributor and you're dealing with people. But I've always loved change, making things better, finding gaps, filling them, creating efficiencies, solving problems. Like, I just get up in the morning. I'm excited about that. I was like, let's think about I love to brainstorm. Let's think about a creative way to solve this. This is an issue. Let's figure out a way to solve it and make it more efficient, make it better. So, like, when I was a CSM, I was doing that. I was like, even though I was dealing with customers, I was creating my own customer segmentation. I was creating my own customer journey. I was creating my own playbooks, my own talk tracks, all the things that I need, using certain tools to do my job better and faster. I was just kind of doing it. And I realized that was the vast majority of where I was spending my time. So when around COVID, I felt like is when Gainsight brought up CS Ops. I think it was around that time, like, made it a thing, or maybe like a little before. And I was just like, both me and Christina, who worked for me at the time, were like, oh my God, something where we get to still make a marked difference in people's lives, because customer success is really purpose driven. We could still make a marked difference in people's lives, but we're doing it kind of in the background by creating all of the efficiencies and all the things that are needed to make the customers more successful, while also making a difference internally within the organization itself. Also, it's like super, super fulfilling. So that's how I got into CS Ops. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I remember those times when Gainsight officially publicized it, it kind of, yeah, it sort of felt more real, I guess, a little in a way, because
Yeah.
it was like, oh, now there's actually an official mantra,
Name.
Has a name.
official
Yeah.
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like we were all doing it. We all kind of
Yeah.
did something that felt, similar, but
Yeah.
there was no
We got a
real
name, we got a
position
track,
for it.
right? At the Pulse conference. I'm like, oh, there's
Yes.
a whole, it's not
Right.
just like one random session. And by the way, that session's not just about how to build a Gainsight rule. It was like how to build a practice, how to be successful in this space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
And
was not a
yeah.
technical focus.
Yeah, and one of the other things I almost forgot to mention is Allison Pickens. She's somebody that I really look up to and admire, and she was the COO of Gainsight. And so seeing what she did and how much information that Gainsight shared in the stratosphere, and then having I'm forgetting his name, who runs CS Ops at Gainsight now. I can't remember. Anyways, but he took the bull by the horns and has made CS Ops this thing. But it was like, I think of Allison Pickens as like the person that started putting out all this great content about operations and not thinking about, because they were doing trial and error. They were trying to figure it out in order to serve the customer success community better. So that actually was a big inspiration for me too. She was on the the Pulse podcast that I had, the bookshop. And so I learned a lot from her and all their books. So yeah, I'm a big fan of CS Ops, and I got a love for it from Allison Pickens, Gainsight, realizing that there's a way to really make a marked difference that's different than just the traditional route to go.
That's awesome. I love it. I'm curious, like, so you're someone that's worked with, like, I mentioned GE Digital, part of General Electric, not a small company. It's fairly large.
Yeah.
And then you've worked with like some early stage and kind of mid-level, like all sorts of, you've worked with the gamut across kind of the 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 company size, I guess.
Yeah.
What's your take on like CS ops or kind of maybe customer success in general? Like when you look at those different stages of a company, like when they first start off or when they're a little bit older, is there some patterns or some kind of things that you're starting to see or that you've kind of identified that you think it would be great for the audience to be aware of?
Heck yeah, Jean. Let's talk about that. Yes, absolutely. So I created this thing called CSAT Growth Engine tool. It's a play on words from the CSAT score, customer satisfaction score, but it actually stands for Charter, Strategy, Analytics, and Talent. So when you're thinking about and CS Ops, right, customer success, and using customer success as a growth engine for SaaS businesses, then I had to break it down and I had to think about how can I create an assessment, a tool, something that helps SaaS companies reach their next stage of growth. If I was going to create it, I had to think about what stages of growth are there, right? There's pre-seed, there's seed stage, there's series A, series B, series C, D, E, F, G, and then debt financing. And, it goes on forever. But because I have both worked at every stage company that there is and also have consulted with every stage company that there is, I've started to see some patterns in fails that companies have had or wins that they've had. And I created a whole methodology around it. So if we're going to talk about CS ops and we're talking to everybody here who's listening to this podcast and they're thinking about, what kind of CS ops job should I be looking for? Think about what stage company you should be working for in CS ops. So like as an example, if you like to be a generalist, and I learned this part from Allison Pickens, so I give props to her. But if you're a generalist and you like to get your hands dirty and you like to be the one to first start getting your hands in building stuff and you like to be creative and you like to be scrappy, then work for a startup in CS ops.
Mm-hmm.
But then how you deliver CS ops is very different than how you would deliver it at a mature stage. So at a startup, you need to be thinking no solid processes, don't build in a bazillion integrations, don't buy a whole bunch of tools at that stage. You're way too freaking early for all of that. Build guidelines, build frameworks, build like a toolkit of resources for the company to use and for the CSMs to use to be able to help them be more successful with the customers. But if you get too process oriented at a startup, it slows stuff down. I worked with a company who was actually very operations focused, and they had the biggest churn problem because they were so intricate about every little thing that the person had to do. It's like for them to try and memorize all that. It was just like, these people are generalists, like they're doing everything. You can't have them following all of this. So that's the first stage. I'll give you 3 stages. Second stage is somebody that's looking at, I like to make a lot of change. So if your audience is like, I love to make a lot of change in an organization. I love restructuring and change management and project management. And I love tools. And I really want to get into the data and the analytics. And, I want to start thinking about automation and how can we like grow even more than we have? How can we specialize? Then you're meant for a growth stage SaaS company in CS Ops, because that's all that you're doing. It's all change management. And it's all reorging in a way to make everybody super specialized in specific roles. And then you can start getting into process and buying tools and creating efficiencies and automations and integrations. But at the startup phase, make sure you have clean data so that by the time you get to growth stage, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Next, finally, is when you're thinking about like a mature SaaS company. If your audience is like, okay, I don't like a lot of change. I like the status quo. I really like a lot of processes already in place where I can just improve upon them. Then they're really kind of meant for those late stage companies. So at that stage, it's about maintenance. It's about improving upon what's already there. It's about upgrading tools, maintaining the status quo a little bit, but really a lot of refinement in the tools and in the processes, getting even more intricate in them. And having said that, no matter what, change management is absolutely necessary through it all, which we can talk about later. But that's something I'm really passionate about, is making sure that people think about CS Ops not just as a job and one size fits all. You also have to think about the size of the company too.
So I'm gonna do something pretty radical here. I'm gonna ask Matthew a question. Normally we just ask our guest questions, but so we're all in a room, like you're almost lying down on a couch, Matthew. We've just heard the Dana Soza kind of CSAT personality traits for CS Ops practitioners in these three stages. I wonder, what stage are you, Matthew?
I was I was just thinking, which stage am I here? And I was actually thinking about people in my life, people I know professionally. I'm like, which of those 3? I'm a stage 2 or a stage 3 person. That's not what you called them, Dana. You actually gave them names. So that's
well, yeah, it's like growth stage. So if you like a chaotic environment where there's a lot of change happening and you can manage that change, and you're starting to think about automations and how to improve and reorging, and you can work in that chaotic environment and you love that, that's where you should be. But if you really are more maintenance mode, you like, steady income, you like just everything consistent, you're just kind of improving on things, then you want to work for like a late stage SaaS.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have thought you're stage 2. I feel like I'm stage 2 as well. And I've dabbled in stage 1 a lot, but I often get sort of frustrated that there's no resources.
John, you and I both had an experience. They were very different experiences, but living the true startup life. And I realized I went to work for a company in operation, not even CS Ops, just Ops, where I think I was employee number 4. And while it was a tremendous experience and I really believed in this company, and that was 5 years ago and they're still around, so I'm cheering for them, I realized it wasn't for me.
Right.
There was just so much in the air that had to be plucked out
Yes.
of the air that
Yes.
I just knew it wasn't that it was bad, it just wasn't me.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny that you said, Jean, that you're kind of in between two, because although I broke it into three, it's actually broken into five stages of maturity.
Right.
And it's five stages of maturity for SaaS companies, but how we deliver CS ops within those stages. So it is true that you can actually be in between those. But yeah, I would probably say, Matt, it makes more sense. You're probably maybe in the middle of a growth and a mature stage company.
Mm-hmm. I need to organize a little chaos, but
Yeah,
I like there to be
not too much.
a couple frames on the house, a couple two by fours standing before, rather than just like, here's a plot of land, build something. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we got a couple guardrails, one side and the other,
Yeah.
go from there.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah. No,
ask
I've noticed
Dana
that with
a
a lot of
variation
people.
on the question. So you talk about like company maturity. I talked to a
Hmm.
company not too long ago. The company, SaaS company, kind of a traditional SaaS marketplace company, been
Yeah.
around for a dozen years, but their customer success function, like 12 months old. So
Oh,
would you then peg the maturity to the company, or would you kind of look more at the customer success function and say, well, the customer success function is a year old, so maybe they're back in stage 1 to 2-ish
it's a
rather
very,
than
it's a very good question. So great question, because the CSAT growth engine tool that I have is an actual assessment. So it's true. Everybody is going to within the organization. And I make sure that it's not just customer success that takes it. I make sure individual contributors take it, managers take it, VP, C-level executives, and not just in customer success. I want product to take it. I want the executive leadership team to take it. I want marketing. I want sales. Like I want the gamut so that everybody can answer these questions to decide, because it is a very nuanced thing. And so there's actually an image that I have of the stages of maturity and what those actually look like. And it does depend on many different factors. So, with the example that you gave, you were saying there was what were the two differences? Tell those to me again.
the company, SaaS company, probably a dozen years old, so has
Yeah.
a mature set of customers and a mature product, with the customer
Uh-huh.
success function 12 to 15 months old. They just found
Oh yeah.
it well.
Yes, it's absolutely true that a lot of times they're the way that, because it's a revenue growth engine. CS ops is a revenue growth engine. And so if you're looking at CS, you have to look at that. And it's like they may be 12 years old, they may be 15 years old, but they are very, very new to customer success. They haven't even touched it. And so it is a disaster that you have to fix. And so even though they may, when they take the assessment based on many different factors, they may rate themselves in charter as like a one. And then there's five focus areas within each of those, but they all may, and that's what's really interesting about it too, because then you can actually see how well everybody is communicating and how well they know each other's businesses, and if they all are on the same understanding. But in that instance, I would say they are at the beginning stages. They need to start from square one. If they don't have anything, we need to build it from scratch. And so they may be they may have been around for 15 years, but if they don't have a revenue growth engine by leveraging customer success, then they're starting from square one.
And we've actually, I think all of us in this room or this virtual room have worked with companies or for companies that went from like on-prem to like now in the cloud and stuff. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
and that it actually like when you talk about this, it makes me think about the perfect company that I love is actually those companies, because in a way they're kind of startup-y, but they actually have a ton of resources because their on-prem business is often very successful, but they're
Mhm.
just like super nascent and in like, how do we drive a revenue engine around like a cloud infrastructure, a cloud product? And to me, like that's almost the best of all worlds, because it's like you got the resources, you don't have anything there. And they often, in my experience, like sometimes some of the companies I've worked with have done on-prem for like 30, 40 years. So they've got this like incredibly experienced, employees on this on-prem world, but they don't know the whole SaaS CS revenue engine world. And so it can be quite an interesting place to work in as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of your experience is in that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting for you to say that you can handle that, because to me, that seems like a disaster waiting to happen. When people are going through that digital transformation, that's where change management comes in. You have to be a change management ninja. You need to know how to get everybody on board with all of these changes. And it's very hard to make changes in really large enterprise organizations. So that's why it is, you have to be tiny changes and everybody very comfortable. You do that. I subscribe to the ad card change management process. Have you guys heard of that? Ad card.
Yep.
Ad card. Yeah. So it's like awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. So it's like whenever I'm going into a company and I'm thinking about all the things we need to do, I'm like, okay, we need to make everybody aware of why we're doing this and get them. And then we have to give them the desire, like what's in it for them, so on and so forth. So it's like a whole methodology to do that. So kudos to you, Jean, that you have been able to do that in companies that are going through digital transformation, because that's tough. Minds are made up. They love on-prem, very hard to move over. So that's really interesting that that's your sweet spot.
It's fun when
that is in your favor, because they think the vast majority of people are scared to touch it.
Yeah. And when you're trying to take someone who's done something for 30 years the same way,
Right.
and now has to adjust their whole entire mindset. It's, I don't know, mind blowing in some cases.
Yeah.
So.
But you do great at it. Yeah. I forget the name of the company, but it was one that was like close to ServiceMax.
Oh, I don't want to name names.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Yeah. But there, whatever company it was that you would work for, I remember thinking, I was like, whoa, he is taking on some big stuff. And you did. And like, you rocked it. I was so impressed.
It's a lot of change management, but I think it's, for me, I think it's like a lot of fun, because I do really feel like the ground isn't like, to what you described, Matthew, about, here's a plot of land. I feel like it's that, but you've got like the funding and the backing to go build a mansion. Whereas my startup experience has often been more, you got a plot of land, but you only got 10 cents to like to do something. And so it can be a little bit like, oh God, like what can I do with spreadsheets here? And so, it's fun, but limited.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's all about the dollars and cents. Well, and I think that's a trend in SaaS in general. The days of SaaS companies throwing money at us where we were making, double, triple, like not just six figures, but double, triple of those of that are kind of a thing of the past. But everybody's knuckling down, budgets are tight, so you've got to get really, really creative. Yeah, you make a great point.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about the past, about stages. Let's look ahead a bit, Dana. A question we sometimes ask guests, where do you want to be in 3 years or 5 years? Like, what do you see in your future, and also perhaps the future of CSRs?
Yeah. Okay, so when I started my customer everything solutions company, consulting company, I called it Customer Everything Solutions because I knew that in order to help SaaS companies reach that next stage of growth, it's not just customer success alone. Customer success, everything post sales is what helps a company grow. That's what feeds the engine to find new business. So I am actually in the midst of creating a customer everything agency. So most agencies that are out there, like big consulting firms, well, most consulting firms specialize in like one or two particular areas. And that's what I always did. CS ops, CS, that's where I specialize. But I'm actually creating this agency where we're thinking about the customer in the middle, customer everything. Everything the customer needs is in the center. And then I am right now in the midst of finding future equity partners to run different parts of that spoke wheel: customer support, customer success, customer experience, customer advocacy, customer marketing, so on and so forth. Because if we go, I found inevitably, as being a customer success consultant, particularly in the operation side, when I do a good job, they're like, hey, we also need this. And hey, we also need AI and we need implementation of this. And I'm like, I don't do that. And so why am I giving up that money when I can help them and make a marked difference in their lives, which is my life's purpose, instead of just being like, sorry, I can't help you. So that was how kind of the idea of the Customer Everything Agency was born. And so I've already nabbed a couple of really, really great equity partners, but right now we are in discovery phase of what it's like to work together as an agency. We've done a soft launch, but so far it's been really, really exciting. It's just such a great vision. We want to reach 5 million in 5 years. We want to be able to transform SaaS companies, growth stage and enterprise SaaS companies, to reach their next stage of growth by thinking about customer success and customers in general as the growth engine of your business, so that you can reach that next stage of growth, get the investments that you need, increase the revenue, again, go through that process, get the revenue you need, so that you just continue to scale. So that's my passion project right now, and I'm really, really excited about it.
Is that, I wonder, like, is that aligned to kind of how you see the division of customer success or customer experience, like kind of go? Because it feels like kind of you're touching on like these departments are starting to bleed into each other, right? Like I know that larger companies, we've created these departments, and there's a customer marketing team, customer experience, whatever, all these different teams, but at the end of the day, like it really has to start kind of come together and sort of form one group that's all about driving the customer experience at the end of the day.
Yes. Oh my gosh, John. So this is exactly it. You hit the nail on the head. So that's why the equity partners and just the contractors that I'm hiring to work with us, I want to make sure that we are all of the same mindset, that we don't own one area. We want to go into these SaaS organizations and make sure that they understand that, oh, sales and CS can work together. Oh, sales and CS, like they have the same methodology and they help each other. CS is there helping them make sales. Sales is helping them figure, or, like right fit customers. It's very cohesive. And so, in order to create that revenue growth engine for SaaS companies, all of those functions that are siloed need to be working in tandem. And so having us come in as a holistic group to show them how to actually work together, how to integrate everything, so that we're thinking about the customer first and not the function first. Yeah, I'm
resonates so much
really passionate about it.
I'm super passionate as well about standardizing our toolkit or our data structure so that everything is like in one house. And I'm truly a proponent that GTM or go-to-market teams across marketing, sales, whatever, CS, support, all those should all be playing the same house. Because the more we create different tools and have kind of different worlds and like these functional silos, the more we're just like so typecasted with how we help the customer. And a customer doesn't care. They don't care that your role is this, and you sit in this function. They have a problem. They need help. How you solve that is you're like who that is that solves that, and which function they sit in, and what access to data they have is irrelevant to the customer. They just need their problem
Yeah.
solved.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And that's the thing is like having customer or excuse me, having SaaS companies see a lot of times they need an example. So they need to actually see what it looks like when customer acquisition, customer success, customer support are in sync. And that's what the
mhm.
agency is about, is showing them, demonstrating this is how it looks to think about a cohesive experience for your customers by making sure that you have the right metrics in place that align across, that you all are in lockstep with your whatever the vision and mission and strategic goals of the company are. You need to tailor those down for those specific roles, but they also have to be aligned with all the other groups. And you also have to think about, when you're creating charters for those groups, their dependencies on the other organizations. That was another thing I learned from Allison Pickens. Charters are like uh, I'm great with charters, being able to figure out the dependencies between different teams, because then it starts everybody having conversations with each other like, oh, I didn't think I was responsible for that. You think I'm responsible for, well, let's have a
Mhm.
conversation about that. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. And then eventually, someone has to make the call, obviously, but those conversations absolutely need to be had. And that's going to be core to my 5-year plan with the customer everything agency. So if anybody is interested in getting involved in it, they can reach out to me, because I'm really, really passionate and we're right in the beginning stages of building it. So I want as many great thought leaders that want to be a part of it to be a part.
Very cool. I love that. Yeah, absolutely love it. Raise the roof. I think you're onto something. So, wish you all the best of luck on that adventure, and looking forward to watching it from the sidelines here. And maybe we can have you on the show when you're back on the show when you're a little bit further along, and get an
Yeah, when you
update
hit
on
the
how you're
next stage.
progressing. Yes.
We're gonna have you
Yes,
back.
exactly, exactly. And then I don't know if we're wrapping up, Jean, but I do want to give some advice to the listeners if we
Yeah.
have time.
Yeah. Of
Okay,
course. Yeah.
great. So, kind of like some lessons that I wish I had learned earlier is that if you're going to be in CS ops, you also need to be great at change management. So, if you're early in your process, get certified in some sort of change management, get certified as in PMP, and think about the future. So the future is AI, automation, digital. There's more and more people, more and more customers, more and more everything. And so we have to get more tech focused to serve as many customers as humanly possible. And then also CS ops people I really advise them to be super focused on how can they use CS ops to increase the revenue of the business. That should be their number one goal, because that's how they get a seat at the table. That's how they have power within the organization. That's how they move up faster. And I think, just staying ahead of those trends is going to be the most important thing. If there's a new shiny object, go chase it. Even just learn a little something, take a course, because maybe it goes away, maybe it doesn't. But the more that you know in tools and automation and AI, all of those different things, I think will get you a lot farther in your career, and you'll be a heck of a lot more marketable.
I think you left the best for last there in a way, because, and I'm glad you brought it up, because you nailed so many things that I think are incredibly important, right? That be keen, be learning, build your toolkit or your skill set so that you
Yes.
can drive initiatives forward. And so, yeah, and you kind of painted my career. I've got the PMP, I do a lot of change management.
See?
Been learning a lot
Yeah.
about AI in the last year.
Yeah, I know. I'm
It's great.
digging way into AI for sure. It's so interesting.
Everyone is
So
doing it. There's
much,
so many things
so
going
much
on.
cool stuff happening there. And if they don't get on the train of AI and learn AI, that they're going to have a hard time in the future. That is a prediction, I think. If you
Oh,
can't if you're not specialized in AI and you don't know how to do that, you're going to probably get left behind. It's happening. Get on board.
was at a gathering last week of CS folks in Austin, and the host said, "Well, how many of you are using some form of AI in your personal life
Yeah.
on a daily basis?" And I think everybody raised their hand,
Yeah.
every single person in the room for
Yeah.
whatever, whether it was like thinking through an issue or writing a resume or whatever it is, right? So it's here, and yes, you
Yeah.
can choose to ignore it, but you do so at your own peril.
Yeah, yeah. And it's easier for your younger listeners. They're more agile, right? But as we mature in our careers, it's like we've kind of got our game. We got what we've got going
Yeah.
on, and it's harder to get into those things. But it will only make you more marketable. And if you even if it's just taking a little course or just dabbling in it yourself and figuring out little ways, just start small. In something that interests you, right? AI, automation, data science, metrics, stuff like that, I think is all going to be super, super important.
So many use cases and add-ons. I don't know. I think we could almost do a whole series of podcasts on like the benefits of AI in our
Totally.
personal and professional lives. So I
Yes.
mean, I
Yeah.
yesterday someone told me like ask ChatGPT like how it would rate your personality traits on the Myers-Briggs. And so I did it, and I guess I use it a lot, but it knew me exactly to a T. So it was crazy. I'm like, wow, so informative. But
I know.
um, yeah, hopefully everyone is using it. If they're not already using it, please jump in. It's incredibly
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Dana, for joining us. You really did raise the roof. I appreciate the energy you've made our Thursday afternoons here. So thank you again for joining us, and pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh
Thanks,
gosh, it's a
Dana. I
pleasure.
wish you were behind you on this agency. It's exciting, and we can't wait to hear how it goes.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys.